everybody? Welcome to TrueCoach TV. I'm your host, Sam Pogue. We're sitting down here with the beautiful, most amazing human, Mr. Jim Crowell, CEO of OPEX, Big Dogs athlete, and just a great human being. So excited to have him on and just get a great wealth of knowledge. He comes from such a unique journey in fitness where he came from being a trader at a hedge fund in New York to owning a couple CrossFit boxes to now running one of the best education systems in the fitness industry today. And he's going to have so much knowledge to share with us about financial models for trainers and then changing models if that's something that you want to do after this call. So Jim, thank you so much for joining us. So pumped to have you here.
Yeah, Sam, thanks for having me, man. It's not every day you get called beautiful, so I'm going to take that compliment and run with it. One piece, I actually never worked in New York. I traded out of Columbus, Ohio and Austin, Texas, but financials are financials, right? So I'm excited to be here. A lot of the folks who are kind of in your ecosystem and our ecosystem, I think will have a good time with this conversation just because it's so relevant to consistency of growth, I think.
Totally, absolutely. And I think what better person than you who's seen it at the biggest level? I mean, when you're playing in that realm, like you're dealing with the big picture. And so then to be able to break it down, and that's something you do very well as we've gotten to become closer friends over the years, your ability to take high level financial models and thought process and break it down so everybody, even the non-business savvy person can oh, that makes so much sense. And so I think
it's probably because I need to understand it at a fifth grade level, right? But if I can understand it there, I can reiterate it.
I mean, I didn't want to put you on blast in front of everybody, but
It is what it is. I'm okay with that.
That's awesome. Well, so let's start off by maybe you can give us a good idea about when you're building a financial model, and let's look at it whether you're a trainer or a gym owner, but what are you really looking at first and foremost when you're choosing prices, how you want money to come in the door, how you're facilitating money? What are you looking at first and foremost before we even accept $1?
Gotcha. Let me start here and say that I think every coach or every business owner has to define the model that they're in as well as what success looks like within that model. So, if I'm running a large, let's just say I'm running Zumba, right? Like that's the big, I can put 100 people into a room. That's going to be a very, very different thought process of success as compared to a personal trainer running people through 60-minute sessions. And so I think that you kind of have to, you need to look at the dichotomy of those two things and say they aren't the same. And so you do need to view them slightly differently. And the outcomes or the success needs to be achieved through slightly different means. Okay, so let's kind of take the audience that's probably listening to this the most. That's probably people who are doing individual personal training, folks working one-to-one with people. And I know that there are some folks who do some version of templating, so I get it. There will be some similarities, right? Yep. I think success comes in the consistency of retention of clients on a monthly basis. And so if I want to make more money, of course I can put people in through marketing, of course. But the more people that I lose out of that system, the more expensive it is to replace all of them with new clients. That starts looking to me like I need to discuss how do I build a financial or a payment methodology that keeps people retained the longest. And so I come across a couple of key ideas, generally speaking. And let me caveat this statement by saying, I know that in some cities around the world, contracts are not kosher. And so I understand that, but let's just for this purpose say that I like contracts or the commitment of a contract more than anything. Okay. So I want to set myself up as a coach or an owner to have commitment from my clients. And then I want to recommit back to them and to not go 20 minutes down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of really important stuff that comes from that human social norm of committing to something. So that's really important. But let's call that a contract. I want to have a consistent month by month payment structure where people are going to pay me an amount of money for a service every month. And generally speaking, I like to put that into a contract in 12 or 24 month periods, understanding that there is always a time for a potential offer or a 4-week trial or a 3-month short-term high cost, of a contract. So I get that there's lots of different ways to boil it down, but I want to get people to 12 and 24 months. That's my goal. Because if they sign up for that amount of time, I now have much less client churn risk on those clients. It doesn't mean that some of them don't move away. I get that happens. But if they're like, yeah, I'm going for a year, and you enforce that commitment, you are going to build a consistency of that system. And I think that that's incredibly important for people to think about. So if you boil that down to payments, right? And like, well, what should I charge, or what should I actually receive for my services? That depends on the service a little bit, but let's put it into individual design first and then go into personal training, because I think they're both very relevant. Individual design, to me, very often bastardizes what the service is. So it's like, am I getting a program? Am I getting a program plus a consultation? How about a program, consultation, nutrition? Do I get to talk to you on TrueCoach, or you're not going to say anything to me through the platform? Like, do I get to speak to you through email? You see like how many different angles there are here? I think that you have to define the service offering that you are most confident and most capable at delivering the most consistently. From that service offering, now I can go out to the market and ask myself, well, what does that cost elsewhere? You know what I mean? Like, what are some other companies or some other people who are doing something similar? And I need to honestly look at myself and my service offering, and yes, my popularity, etc., to understand if I should charge more or less than those other people out there. And then you add on things like your brand and everything else that you kind of wrap around your service, and the clients or the market's willingness to pay moves up or down depending on the quality, the consistency, and honestly, the popularity.
Right.
So you design your payment structure like that, but you want it on an ongoing monthly basis. And I'm all for pay in full for a year. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody wants to pay you for a year, by all means, you should take it. But most of the time, people are going to want to pay you month by month, because if you screw something up, I don't want my money tied up with you. It's like, that's an honest feeling. And so I would start there, and I would define the service, how that service differentiates or is similar to other services, to price it. And then I would bring somebody in on as quality of a contract or commitment as I possibly could to get them bought into a longer term relationship.
So what do you say to the kid, and I'm going to use kid arbitrarily, but what do you say to the trainer, the brand new coach who's, man, they're having a hard time even selling themselves at $50 an hour, let alone getting someone to buy in for a 12-month commitment, right? Like, how do you help them understand that, like, no, by giving them more structure, by telling them that you're worth this much and your expectations are for them to be here for a year and that you're going to provide that service for a year, how are you building that into that coach who just can't even see past charging, a couple dollars an hour, let alone that long term of a commitment?
Yeah, there's a couple of, I'm a big principle thinker. So whenever I hear a question, I try to break it down into the component parts of like, what makes sense, right? Like, what about the universe makes sense for me to answer this question? And so a couple things come to mind, and I always kind of fall back to Megan Sweet, who does all the sales for OPEX and has just been a great, support in the whole company. And then also, we used to do a lot of work with from NPE. And so we had a lot of conversations back in the day that it ultimately starts with your mindset. So a lot of these kids, and now I'll use kids because it's fun, right? But a lot of these guys and girls, they don't actually believe they're worth more than $50 an hour.
Oh, okay.
So if you think about, again, like I come back to social norms, I must have status for somebody else to believe I'm worth something. And so part of that status, you can look at it. Am I a celebrity? In most cases, no. Am I rich? In most cases, no. And am I powerful? In most cases, no. So that coach is going to have a lot of inner belief prior to the market just saying, yep, I'm going to toss money at that person. And so if you have belief, and if you have a very, let's just call it organized and well thought out service that you can deliver 100% of the time, that's the starting point for you to earn more money per hour. The problem is that a lot of kids, right, like 20, you and I are getting old, Sam. I'm 36 now, so I'm now old in this game, but somebody had to say it, right? But at this point, what's happening is that a lot of people get into coaching because they weren't good at something else or because they wanted freedom. That's not a business reason to get in. And so you need to create a business reason to say, I'm really good at this thing, whatever your service is. I'm going to charge this amount, which is equivalent to the other services that are out there, except here's why I'm different and better. Mm-hmm. And if you can't talk about how you're different and better as a coach, you will struggle to earn a price point. And so I'm a huge believer that, you know, we call it pitching a lot in OPEX, but it's sales, it's conversational. If you can't have conversations with people, you're going to struggle in this game because it's face to face. Like even if you're online coaching, right? Like you're probably going to have some version of a consultation, or I'm going to see you, you know, in videos, and you're probably going to see me in videos. Like I have to be able to connect with you. And so the price point to me is about the features and benefits of the service and how consistent I can deliver it and how well I sell it. And that all starts with how much I believe in my service and how likely I'm going to be to deliver it to that capacity every single time.
You mentioned earlier individual design, and you know, when you're charging per session, if I'm charging, you know, 10 sessions for $700, let's just say, that's a different game than if I'm offering, well, you can come in and get 8 to 10 sessions a month in for $400, right? So is there, when you're talking about this strategy, do you have to keep in mind like which version you're going to go with, or is this universal across either payment structure that you're building in?
No, and I'm glad we're coming back to, I'll just call it personal training. You know, per session to me is essentially personal training. Yeah. I'm going to make a statement that some people are going to be like, that guy's a fucking idiot. And that's okay. So here we go. I don't like punch cards, and I would view a per session idea as a punch card. The reason I don't like punch cards is Willy Wonka. I love that movie, but I hate the concept that it's like, this is my golden ticket and I got this one punch left and I don't want to use it.
Yeah.
You know, there's an underlying psychological thing that's like, ooh, I've paid for 10. I got to make them like the best 10 ever.
Yeah.
So don't use them. They don't redeem them. Now, somebody might say, well, if you sell 10 and they don't use them, well, you've made some money not doing the service. Well, that sucks if that's how you're trying to make money in this game. You know what I mean? So I actually do like to sell monthly packages that would be for personal training. So it's like, hey, you're coming in twice a week. That's 8 per month. If we need to shore up anywhere here or there, I'll hit you for another one, or, you know, we'll roll over that session to another month. No big deal. And then what are you trying to do over the month? You're making sure they get their sessions in. But they're not worried about swiping the damn card for every session they have. So I like this idea because you get consistent and it's a recurring charge. So you can now view it as monthly recurring revenue, which is super, super helpful in a business. And you've set the relationship to say, this is the commitment and here's how we're doing this thing. You're coming in 3 times a week. Good with that? Awesome. And it removes the cash component any other time in that conversation.
Yeah. Why do you think it is so hard?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it becomes challenging for that person to have to swipe the card every time because they're rebuying. Like they have to make a buying decision every time. The moment you go on recurring, it's like, yeah, that's just what I pay per month. And like, let's walk back to, you know, basic human psychology, right? If I believe I am something, I am that thing. And so if I say, oh yeah, I pay X for my training every month, it's like, I don't have an issue with that anymore. But if I have to buy every individual session, that's fatiguing.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, do you feel like buyers get tired of hearing, you ask for the sale? I mean, even though it's like, if I've been training you for, let's say 4 years now, Jim, like, it's probably not a point where I'm like having to ask you for sessions, like, hey, you're up with sessions, like you want to get some more. But like, as a buyer, do you think they get fatigued with the trainer asking too? I mean, do you think it wears on them?
For sure. I mean, it's, there are, in my experience, there are very few people who simply love the money conversation, right? It's like, hey, I'm out of sessions. I'm real fired up to have that conversation about buying more.
Yeah.
So I think that because there's always some level of awkwardness to that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
the client wants consistency, so I don't want to have to say, okay, you're out of 10, let's buy 10 again. I want to say, here's your training program, and it's going to require you to come in 3 days a week to reach your goals.
Yes.
So I'm connecting the number of sessions they do with the story that they want to be a part of. And if they're willing to pay an amount of money for that, I do it once. And that's just what they then pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why would, I understand travel, so don't get me wrong, like there are things that happen, so I get it. But generally speaking, people are going to train the same number of times every month. So why are we making it so complex?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as I'm looking at it too, if I'm like, even, there's some trainers who even charge per month by like how many workouts they write for you, right? And I'm like, either way, if you're only training twice a week, that means that you're probably only able to handle twice a week. So, but it doesn't mean that I'm not doing my 11 years of experience of working and trying to design a program that fits to your life. Like I'm still putting in the same amount of work. Like I really want trainers to stop looking at writing programs like just writing exercises down, and that's the value that they're giving, right? I love what you touched on about, here's the program. Based on the goals that we talked about during our assessment, this is what I envision us doing to help you get here. And that you're selling the program because you're selling the results. And really what the trainer is selling is the feeling that person's going to feel from achieving those results, right? The self-confidence, the passion, the hard work, the gratitude, everything. And it's, if we can get past the, like, I'm, only experiencing, like I'm asking you for, an hour of your time for this much money, and I'm going to write down these many exercises. And I think if we can get out of that and just, like you said, make it about the program, it really makes understanding what you're worth easier, right? Yeah. Because if that client had a great relationship with the way their body felt and what they did with it, they wouldn't be coming to you as an expert that they see something in where they're like, oh my gosh, for whatever reason, Jim gets me. And of all the things I've tried, he just understands me better because I need another beautiful person to understand how beautiful I am. And so that's why I chose Jim in the first place.
I see what you did there, and I love every moment of it, Sam. I go back to the golden ticket idea, right? It's like, I'm a big believer that everything that we do either creates good incentives or bad incentives for our client, right? So if I'm selling everything based upon the number of blank, I understand the efficiency behind it, but if I'm selling everything based upon that number, my clients are going to view that as the value, like you said, and what they're going to do is they're going to start to wonder if every single session was worth it.
Yes.
And it's like, and by the way, you don't want to play in the game of like, oh, Johnny's having a bad day today, so he doesn't think that the service is worth it. It's like, holy shit, that's a horrible game to play as a coach. You're trying to play the bigger picture game, which, by the way, let's look at technology. You guys are a technology company, right? You think it's going to get harder to write a program for people? No, it's not going to get harder. So you're going to have to realize that it's going to be the results, the relationship, and the fun. That's a big thing that we talk about, results, relationship, and fun. If you can check all those boxes, that's the big part of the story arc that they really want. And they're ultimately only going to continue to pay you if that's happening. They don't care what the scientific understanding of A1, A2 plus energy system training is. And 99% of your clients don't. The 1% that do, enjoy those conversations. But 99% of your clients don't care about that. They care about how they feel during and then ultimately long-term based upon not the program, the experience that you're giving them. You know, so for example, right, like if I'm building a great experience, I'm not just writing A1, A2, B1, B2 plus energy systems training. I'm writing warm up because I'm writing intention of the workout. What are you trying to accomplish? I'm paying attention to things like their compliance. I'm paying attention to a monthly consultation that I want to have with that client, right? It's like, that's an experience. Being delivered a program is a dime a dozen right now, because all kinds of different technology out there can deliver you a program for this much money. That's not the value. Now, the value is in the specificity of the program and the specificity of the relationship. So the better that you handle both of those, the more value you have. To go back to the young person trying to make $50 an hour, it's the experience that you're trying to do. And experience is not one session. Experience is the forecast and the execution of long-term success. And by the way, that has to exist off the floor too.
What do you mean?
So why do people do fitness in the first place? They want to feel better about what? And then therein lies the massive, like, you could go a million different directions with why people want to feel better or for what purpose they want to feel better for. But if we, again, come down to the principles, right? There is a basic underlying human need that they are trying to create. And so fitness is merely the vessel for them to feel a certain way about themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a ton of amazing physical things that feel great and make you more healthy, right? Like, we all want that. But I'm saying people will choose to pay a higher amount based upon the emotion that you make them feel. So, for example, like, if you're in the more competitive arena in fitness, many of your people ultimately want, and I go to Tony Robbins' 6 basic human needs for this, right? Like certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and giving. So I go to those and I say, well, what do competitors generally want? And from my experience, they generally want certainty that they'll get better. They want significance, meaning they want people to know that they're great. And they also want growth. They want to get better, right? Like, it's actually not about necessarily winning for a lot of these guys. Certain people it is, no doubt, but a lot of them want to get better. And so if you as a coach can talk to them about how you connect them to that human emotion, that's when they'll buy in. Let's go back to the start of the conversation about, well, what are you supposed to sign a client up for? You're supposed to sign them up to make them feel a certain way. When you can connect to them to that emotion, they'll gladly sign a contract and sign up with you for a while. It's just that most coaches don't connect to the base level that a client's looking for. You know, so if a client came in, or I should call them a prospect, they haven't bought from me yet. If a prospect walks in, they say, hey, I'm curious about what you do. I would immediately ask them what they wanted. Right? Like, say, hey, awesome. Like, we love doing fitness. I'm just curious, like, what is it that you'd really like to achieve here? But don't stop there, right? It's like, they'll give you an answer. It could be one word. It could be 1,000 words. But right after they've answered that, ask, why is that so important to you? Like, what is it about, achieving that thing that is really important? And that's usually what starts to spill out what they're really going after. And then you ask them why again. And then you ask them why again. Right? And so you start doing that and they buy in more and more and more and more. And again, that's what brings them to basically to the forefront of, like, wherever you have for me to sign, I'm game. You know what I mean? Like, they're good if you can connect them to that. And I think that coaches need to practice that a lot.
Where does that come from? Because, like, you and I look at it to where it's like, that's just a part of our journey, right? Like, you need to be able to tell your story, but you also need to be able to listen and engage with that client as they tell you what they're looking for. And then you use your previous experiences in life to relate to them and show them that you can connect to them in the same way, that you've been through some of the same things that they've been through. how do we get coaches to do that first before they start worrying about how much they should charge or throwing programs up online? And what are you guys doing over at OPEX so well that gets people to do this out of the gate?
I don't think a lot of coaches do it out of the gate. So I'm not saying that like just because somebody signs up with OPEX, it's like they're good to go, right? It's like that doesn't work. They've got to practice this thing a lot. So some of the things that really come to mind in that question, you have to define. Well, let me take a step back, actually. I'm reading this really interesting book. It's called The Elephant in the Brain. And essentially what it's attempting to discuss is our human psychology and how we deceive ourselves in order to achieve more selfish social norms. So it's a super interesting concept. I really like, Jonathan Haidt's stuff and, Daniel Kahneman's stuff. And so the reason why this book is interesting is because one of the conversations in the book is, it's like, why do we actually have speaking and listening relationships at all? Right? And so if you start to ask yourself, it's like, am I listening the most? Am I speaking the most? And what are the outcomes that I'm trying to achieve by it? What the book, one of the theses is, this is certainly not, full on information here, but one of the things they talk about is that we are so often designed to essentially talk to make people want to be our ally. Because if you're our ally, we can utilize your resources and you can utilize our resources to do more together than we can apart. The challenge that creates for a lot of coaches is that it also makes them, when they're listening, a lot of them actually just want to talk again, right? And they want to talk again because they want to build their status all the time. And in this type of a conversation, coaches have to be aware enough to know, it's like, is it my time to talk? And to go one step even, behind that, it's like, am I actually listening to what this person is saying? Am I trying to dig under the surface? And you said this right in the beginning, essentially you said, I can't, maybe it was before we even hit record, but like, hey, whatever you want to chat about, we'll chat about. And it's like, awesome, man. You made me the hero.
Yes.
And so because I'm the hero, I feel real good about it, right? Like you can see it in my face right now. I'm like, I'll do any one of these TrueCoach conversations. Sam's a master at making the people that he's talking to the hero. I believe that, to answer your question more specifically, these coaches need to make these prospects and clients the hero. And a lot of times what I see coaches doing is the coach so badly wants to be the hero that they don't pay attention to the client sitting across from them. And so they don't articulate the best game plan for that client, which means the client doesn't buy into the strategy. If they don't buy into the strategy, good luck for them signing up for some big package. They will only want one session because they're like, I'm not sure if this is for me.
Yeah.
It's like you put me or you in front of the room, and I know this sounds a little bit cocky, but it's like, I'm going to close because I'm going to pay attention to the person sitting across from me, and I'm going to solve their problems, not mine. And if I can solve their problems utilizing my service, i.e. fitness and health, why wouldn't they sign up?
Yep.
And then you sign them into the contract and they're good to go. Then you got to deliver.
I mean, man, that was literally like the best breakdown of how we get better at sales across the board, right? Like that, and it's so funny because here this is a conversation around payments and sales and pricing, yet we're not talking dollars. We're not saying how do we determine our hourly yet. I mean, not that there's not that component, but like notice everything Jim has said so far is it's about being able to connect to the client, listening to what they said, being a problem solver. And he talked over through this concept. He says, how does your service, how does your business help solve their problem, right? So if you help people develop better relationships with their bodies and the person that you're talking to does not have a good relationship with their body, well, then you need to be able to hear what they have to say and then funnel and be able to talk about what you do that highlights what they need. It's not about how you go through the conjugate system and dynamic effort box squats and we use, aerobic blah, 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 blah days, right? It's literally, yep, we do all this fitness stuff and we help you get to that. Yeah. And being able to do that gives you the ability.
Yeah, they don't know what conjugate means. They don't care what conjugate means. They want to know how they're going from point A to point B. And what they really want is to have a support system for them to get there.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and you know, it's like, I'll use myself as an example. It's like, well, how much is an hour of my time worth? Well, to be fair, it depends on who's asking.
Right.
Like, let's just be honest, right? Like a coach has to recognize, and this is why, you know, deciding which audience or which target market you're going for is super important. Because if I go after college kids, an hour of my time, no matter how much they value it, might be like $1 an hour, right? Like these kids don't have much money. But if I go into the C-level suite, you know, in Wall Street and I start talking about health and wellness, it's exponentially going to rise. And so I think that coaches, honestly, they need to calm the fuck down a little bit, because value is in the eye of the beholder. You know, it's like, it's my value. I might think that I'm worth $5,000 an hour, and you can see it in my face. It's like, I think I'm pretty valuable. However, it's dependent upon who I'm talking to and what they need me for. So let's use a couple of examples, right? Let's say that somebody wants 6-pack abs. It's like, how bad do you want it? You know what I mean? Like, why is this? Why? And the question is, why is this so important to you?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start to talk to your audience and you have identified an audience that you can uniquely help solve their problems, your value starts rising. And then they start talking about how you've solved their problems to their friends and their family and their coworkers, etc. And your value rises more. And then you start to show these stories on social media, and your value rises more, right? Like, we're not going down the marketing rabbit hole, but the concept is that people need to have trust. Like, they got to know, like, and trust you, right? So if they don't know you, they're not going to buy. If they don't like you, they're not going to buy. If they don't trust you, they're not going to buy. You know, so the better you can build those 3 base foundations, the more likely somebody's to buy, the more likely they're going to sign up for a longer period of time, and the more likely they're going to pay you more per month.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there's so much more to it than, oh, you want to look better in those jeans, and so we're going to do squats. And to watch how these trainers administer sessions even, and their coaching, where it's, you know, they're so preoccupied by trying to make that particular workout feel like it's the coolest thing ever, but never building longevity and never building and including the client in the process. And while not every client gives a shit about conjugate system and what their, you know, VR2 max is, they do care about the progress that they're making. And to be able to include them in and help them understand, like, hey, you know, as you are able to educate, like, hey, on Thursdays, those are our leg days. Like, make sure that you're not coming in fasted. You know, that's our day that we get after it. Like, make sure that they're a part of the program so that they are ready to go. And then at the same time, like, I like to forecast the program when I'm talking to my clients. Hey, Jim, like, you know, today we just hit 305 on our back squat. Man, I can't wait till December 12th. I actually have you slated. We're going to test our 1RM. I'm really hoping that you get 385. And you're going, wait, I wasn't even thinking about sessions in December. We're still in October. But like, you're talking, I'm like, yes, I think about your program that far out. I'm thinking about getting you to that goal that you're trying to get to as we go, right? And I'm building that into every conversation. Uh-oh.
Camera should be coming in a sec. There we go. The last thing I heard before everything shut down was you hit on the conjugate system. I don't know what you said right after that. It was the second time you hit on conjugate.
Okay.
Or we could just start fresh somewhere.
Yeah, we can start fresh somewhere. Let's start with that. So tell me a little bit about where we start. You know, we've talked a lot of structure and a lot of the back end about understanding why, who you're really targeting, what is the exact service that you're really offering. Let's say we've gone through all of that. Let's say that we've, you know, built ourselves up, and we'll even give you some parameters. Normally, if I'm coaching someone in person, I want to charge $200 an hour. And not because I think I'm that elitist, is because it's like I don't want to coach all the time, and so that's where I'm pricing myself at. Now, if I was training someone 3 days a week, right, and that's 6, 12, 18, that's $2,400 a month. I'm probably not going to set up a residual monthly subscription service at $2,400 a month for that. Or, I mean, would you say that? Like, how are we determining that monthly price?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I like to create, like an anchor product that makes the person choose the option I want them to choose. So if I want them to sign up for a monthly subscription, then I say my monthly subscription is X for, 3 PT sessions per week. And let's just assume that that's, I don't know, 15 sessions a month or something like that, 14, 15 sessions a month. And if that's what I want, then maybe that's the $200 a month. Or you can buy one. And if you buy one, it's $300 a month. And it's like, ooh, okay, all right. So, and I know that I'm making like a huge,
Totally.
That's the idea, right? Is you want to create the right option so that people choose the option, which, by the way, should be the best for them at the end of the day. So you do want to make sure you're not just doing this for a cash grab. You want to make sure that this is the right service offering for them. Now, obviously, like if you look at an OPEX gym, right, like we do some personal training, but that's not our base service. So it's like we're not looking to go sign a whole bunch of people to personal training. So doing a one-off session here and there, that's all good for us. And by the way, because they've already bought their monthly training, then they have a certain level of value that what that hour really should be worth. And so we believe that the personal training that happens in an OPEX gym is actually more valuable, like dollars-wise, more valuable to people who would buy it.
Yeah.
So I would try to set the mindset to be the right to buy the option that makes the most sense for them and for me. And so what do I want principally? I want recurring revenue so that I know that money's coming in. I want a contract if I can get it because that's consistency. And I know for a fact, like I've studied this in not only with our businesses, but also with a bunch of OPEX gyms, those who have contracts have longer term retention. It's like everybody's like, well, I got that one client who's been with me for 4 years. I'm like, what about the 200 others?
Right.
So I get it. Now, maybe somebody truly can go month to month and that's all good. But generally speaking, at a high price point, particularly in the beginning on something that's emotional, I find that having that contract, particularly in the beginning, is where it's most important. And so I give them the option which would more likely get them to sign up for that. And then I like old school, right? Like give them a sheet for them to sign. It's like, hey, what are you committing to? Let's rock and roll. I'm going to commit to that too. I'm going to do a great job with you every day you're coming in. And that's $200 a month. We'll just hit your card every month. That sound good? Yep. Let's roll. Now they never have to think about it again. And by the way, it's like if I as the coach miss a session, my thinking has always been I owe them a free session because I screwed up.
Yep.
So that's my thinking. Not everybody's like that. If they miss a session, it's like they get one free, like one meaning like, okay, here's a warning. You do it again, session's gone.
Yep.
And you're setting the right expectations, which to your kind of initial question is, how do we become more professional? Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, you think you don't make your appointment at JP Morgan? Think about missing your appointment there? And so you start talking about, well, how much value is this service worth? The higher the value, the more likely people should be to show up.
Yeah.
And these coaches have to get that into their mindset, right? It's like if somebody doesn't show up, one warning, and then you take the session. If they're super pissed about it, fuck them. Like tell them that they need to get in touch with you, more than 48 hours in advance or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, just so that people don't think I'm a maniac, it's like, yes, if there's a bad situation that happens, sure, you can let them off the hook. But let's not get too crazy here. It's like, if you want to be a pro, people need to show up consistently, and so do you.
When you're choosing that price, we talked about the services, we're talking about the level of people, right? Like you guys work with some pretty high level athletes over there. They're very committed right out of the gate, right? Like in order for me to get to that level, to me to get to the games, like they're so bought in. So there's probably not as much sales that go into coaching someone like that, right? Or is there more because they are at that level versus the everyday person?
Yeah, it depends where people could be fully bought into the concept of, going all the way, if going all the ways to the games or wherever their games is, whatever that event is. But it still comes down to what they're capable of paying every month, right? And it's like, there's a lot of athletes that can't pay what our coaches charge.
Totally.
And it's unfortunate, right? It's very, very unfortunate. And there are some situations that we have some scholarshiped athletes, right? But we scholarship them because it's ultimately a net positive to both the client and the business. We don't scholarship somebody just because they can't pay. Now, I understand if you want to do that, that's your prerogative, but you have to know it's charity, right? So if you want to do charity, awesome, I'm all for it. But just know what it is. I think a lot of coaches are like, yeah, I got this athlete. He's 9 millionth in the region, but he's getting better. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm gonna take all my time and spend on this athlete, and he's gonna provide me with all these other clients. And a year down the road, 0 clients have come in. It's like, that's charity, bro.
Yep.
And so if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But it's like, can you do it with 5 more people? How about 20? Right. You know, so people just need to kind of think about that, right? So it's like, can they actually pay for your service? And obviously in sales terms, right, you sometimes pre-qual people out, and it's unfortunate, but that's the game, right? We work one-to-one with our clients, which means we can't work with 100,000 clients. You know? So we want to go after the athletes that are the most committed, the most bought in, and who are going to be consistent in payment. And it's just got to be that way if you want to have consistency in your business.
How did you guys, I mean, if you guys play in that space, like, how did you guys determine that price point to know, like, that's the sweet spot where the people that are going to sign up for this coaching are going to be committed, and that the type of client, if they're going to spend that much money, they're committed and they're going to put the work in, but also at the same time, like, we're able to pay our coaches what they're worth, and we live in a spot in the market where we can actually have a business and not just a cool idea.
Yeah. I love this conversation because it's kind of like economics, right? It's like economics makes so much sense on paper, and then all of a sudden you throw in the human brain. It's like, doesn't make sense anymore. You know, so I love this conversation on pricing because you can go, like, I did my MBA at UNC. It's like, I took pricing classes, I took economics, like, I get those concepts. Essentially, you're saying, well, what is the elasticity of this price? Meaning, if I go higher with the price, how many fewer people buy? Because what I'm trying to do is to revenue maximize a certain price number. Now, for every coach on this call, forget that I just said that. Don't try to solve this thing in your brain, okay? The reason why I say it is because what is so often, what has to happen is a test. Like, ultimately, you want to go do as much market research as you can to try to understand how your service stacks up, not only systematically, right, with features and benefits, but also how your brand stacks up. It's like, if you have no brand, but you have the same service as 5 other gyms, in reality, you will not garner as much willingness to pay initially. It's like, that makes sense. And so if you make your brand better, your willingness to pay goes better. Let's say the same thing. If your brand is good, but your service is a little bit subpar, you might still be able to charge the same amount as another gym because you have a brand that, you know, holds water, right? So when you're thinking about pricing, you need to go do the market research to say, well, what are people already paying for a service like this? If you've created a completely new service offering that nobody's ever done, which, by the way, in fitness doesn't exist, right? Like, you're doing fitness, right? Everybody's done fitness before. But if you create something brand new, yes, you're going to have less point of reference as to what that pricing is. But if I go out in the market and I say, well, this business is charging $300 a month for program design, a consultation, and like nutrition principles, right? Like, I'm doing all that. It's $300 a month. Lots of services are charging that. And I know that I can do it just as consistently. My coaches have just as much education. They have just as much personality and relationship building. Theoretically, I should be able to charge somewhere around that $300 mark. But, and the reason why I open up with this, you know, elasticity conversation is because until you test it in the marketplace, you don't fucking know. So it's like, so the coach who's out there who's like, I can't seem to make $50 an hour. I can't just broad strokes say you're worth more or less because I don't know, right? Like, I don't know where you live. I don't know what people are paying for fitness. I haven't done any research with you to understand what your situation is. I also don't know, you could be an amazing speaker in a terrible area and struggle to make $50 an hour. Or you could be a horrible speaker in an amazing area and not make $50 an hour. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but let's just say, principally speaking, the better your service, the better your education, the more status you have, the better your brand is, and the more consistently you get results, relationships, and fun with your existing clients, you should be able to charge relatively more than another service or another company doing the same thing less good. So get out there and understand what the features and benefits are selling for, structure your pricing around that, decide if you're trying to put more or fewer clients in initially, and offset your price by that idea. So it's like, if I want to put clients in faster, I might open a hair less expensive just to start, right? And that could be your founding member rate, right? You're not going to do it forever, but it's like, I might do a founding member rate slightly less expensive. It's still a test because I don't know, but it's like, I should theoretically, if I've done my research and my service is tight, I should be able to sell more people into that faster. Flip side, if I want my brand to appear very premium, I might open up a little bit higher. And it's like, you have trade-offs on both sides, right? Like, if you charge a bunch for your service, yeah, you might be looked at as premium with 0 clients. You know what I mean? So it's like, you could have that. And on the flip side, you could be lumped into a bunch of group training that's starting to get less and less value because there are so many options.
Yeah.
So it's like 8 years ago, there were a lot fewer options in this intense group fitness, right? Now there's a lot of options. So it's not just if you're better, it's how you are unique. All the textbooks would say that it's the uniqueness of your service that ultimately creates best willingness to pay.
Yeah. Well, in this day and age, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, like, because the entire time you're going through this, I'm thinking about that coach who just opened up shop and there's a damn F45 Orange Theory Berries boot camp right next to them. And they're charging $200 a month. Like, everybody that comes in doesn't understand why I'm charging $350 a month when they can go to Barry's boot camp and get, for $200 a month, get unlimited classes. And it really hits the nail on the head where you talked about it right in the beginning, is identify, what are you selling them? If they're going there and you're getting 15 group classes a weekend where you get your butt kicked and sweaty, whereas I'm offering individualized custom assessment and multiple access points to me to, live real-time questions, as well as a program designed for you, feedbacks to where we can talk about progress and what you're doing, like, that's an entirely different service and should be charging appropriately for it, right? So that person who wants Orange Theory, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of trainers try to be the solution for everybody all the time instead of narrowing down a niche.
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's the people that you're bringing in. So here's what I know for a fact at this point. If you are an individual design gym or personal training gym and you are trying to play in the same market as group, you are always going to have the same-ish value as group training, because you're selling something that people don't know the difference between. However, if you're saying, okay, let's just take personal training. I do personal training. It's like, who's going to sign up for your service? People who want personal training. Well, how much does personal training cost? I don't know, $1,200, $2,400 a month, not $200. So it's like, look at my face when I even say that. It's like, it's absurd for somebody to think that personal training should cost $200 a month. But if all they know is group training, they will anchor their mindset off of $200 a month. And now you've got to tell them why there's so much value. And here's also a reality. A lot of people don't think there's $2,400 a month in personal training value. It's like, and it's like, hey, too good, right? Like, if you don't think that there's value there, I'm not going to spend all of my time demonstrating value to somebody who doesn't care. But I can tell you point blank, if you go after group training clientele in the group training market for personal training, that's a really tough game.
I want to take you back to you leaving Wall Street essentially and opening up your CrossFit boxes. And did you, because you came out, that's a ton of education you're already coming out with, right? In that field, in finance, in marketing, in business, in operations. Did you just roll into this gym and like, here we go, turn the light switches on, I already know how to build models, and it just run? Or did you have your own like learning experiences and like, hey, let me test this, let me figure this market out, what's going on? Like, how did you determine your pricing and how did you determine your structure when you set out on this market?
Yeah, so a business partner and I actually opened them together, and I came with the full financial background and the coaching background, and he more so came with the marketing background. So we knew that we had specific roles, so we did that pretty effectively, right? A lot of partnerships are like, hey, we're just going to figure this shit out as we go, and that wasn't how we started, which was beneficial. But I look back, and that was 9 or 10 years ago that we opened the first gym. And I've learned a tremendous amount over that 9 or 10 years. So maybe I thought I was smart 9 or 10 years ago, but I wasn't, compared to today. And I'm sure I'll look back 10 years from today and be like, God, you were an idiot at 36 years old. But I think that, if I were to say some of the things that we did, let me start with poorly. Some of the things that we started with poorly, we didn't have our entire customer experience mapped out. We essentially knew what we wanted to do, but we kind of didn't know exactly what we wanted to do, right? And so we had to learn over a year or two. It's like that way doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like that's not working. So we had to learn what our clients wanted to see more, for us to be more effective for them. So we had to refine that a lot. I would say that I was very inefficient with a lot of the day-to-day like entrepreneur tasks, right? Like there's a lot to do when you own a gym. And so, I'm doing our accounting and my business partners. Oh, here's one of the funny stories. We were rolling for a local gym. Okay. We were a local gym in Pittsburgh. We were running $3,000 a month in Facebook ads in 2011.
Ooh, look at you go.
So think about that, right? Like people are like, oh my God, I spent $200 this month in Facebook ads. I was like, I spent $3,000 8 years ago, and so that's when the platform was crushing, right? So like we found our marketing angle. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people didn't come from those Facebook ads, but we built a ton of awareness in the local area of what we were doing. So we made mistakes there. We made mistakes in some of the ways that I handled clients, right? Like I gave some clients too many chances. Other clients, maybe I could have been less harsh. You know what I mean? Like you just learn all this stuff as you go. But pricing wise, I would actually put that probably initially in the mistake category, where we did offer things like punch cards. We did offer things like, our only service was, one session of personal training. We only had, one price for group training, right? Of course, we tried all the different things like 2 days a week, for CrossFit and 5 days a week for CrossFit. And we just let's just call it elasticity. It wasn't that by any means, but we'll call it that to sound smart. We ended up finishing our group service on 2 days a week and unlimited. So it's like we knew point blank through a lot of testing that that's where our sweet spot was. And yes, of course we tried 3 days a week, but what did we find? If we offered 2 days and 3 days a week, people took 3 days. But if you gave them unlimited for 15 more bucks a month, they took unlimited and they still came 3 days a week. You know what I mean? So like you've immediately changed their perception of value based on the service offering you have, but you're still thinking about the operational capacity of your facility. You know what I mean? So like I knew that they were still only coming 3 days a week, but the service offering made them feel better. Yep. Even though they were paying 15 more bucks a month for it because they could come whenever they want. So it's like, it's all a mental game that's being played. And we gave them what they wanted. They told us by choosing unlimited classes, right? So it's a fun game to play. The things I think we did well, we cared a lot about our clients, a lot. I spent a tremendous amount of time building relationships with our clients, even in the group setting, a lot of time. I worked, well, you know this about me generally speaking, but I worked a lot of hours to build those relationships. We played marketing aggressively. I would say part of the time that hurt us because we were, it's like, oh, those are the guys that market all the time. But we had lots of clients coming into our facility. And because of our work at building relationships, we had a better retention rate than most group facilities. So we were doing quite well. I think that, we opened gym number 2 maybe 2 years in or something. And I think we did that one even better than the first one. And a big thing that we did well is we hired great people. So like we spent a lot of time thinking about who might be great coaches for us. And yeah, we had some hiccups here and there, but overall we had coaches that were great. And I think that then continues to build those relationships. It makes our brand more valuable because these coaches care just as much as we do. And if I look at multiple of those coaches today, they own gyms now. So it's like, it was kind of this cool thing where, they got to go take on the beast as well after I left Pittsburgh to come down to OPEX. I could talk about this forever, but I just think it's always a learning experience. If you've never owned a gym before, you got to know you're going to get kicked in the teeth. I just remember some days I would wake up, I was like, today is not going to be a better day than yesterday because I've not solved the problem that existed yesterday.
Right.
And I think for me specifically, what hurt me the most internally was when there was a client problem, like somebody was really angry about something. And maybe part of it was because I just wanted them to like me. Maybe part of them was I just wanted them to not be taking all of my time with this problem. Yeah, I don't know, but I know that I cared a lot about our clients and I didn't want other people having a bad experience because of that. I think that was really important. So if I were to ever go play that game again, however many years down the road, I would do that the same way. I'd care about my clients the same way. Now, keep in mind, I cared about my clients underneath a financial model. They all paid me. They all paid me the first of every single month. Their credit cards got swiped at the first of the month, and I wasn't asking for a bunch of checks or cash or whatever. We automated as much of that as possible, right? And we were constantly tinkering with our price point to make sure that it's what the market wanted the most. So it's like I couldn't have spent that time with my clients had I not been getting paid properly by them.
Totally. I think that's a big problem that a lot of trainers, they want to give all the love and they want to give that time to the clients because they care. So many coaches care so much. But then they realize like they're not charging enough. So then all of a sudden their hours are going into something that's not paying them. And then they're broke. But, really, I'm so happy that you said that, even you've messed up, right? Because it'd be so easy to sit and think like, oh, shit, this dude's going to be a rock star in business, right? Right out of the gate. Like find another gym owner that's been on Wall Street like that before. You know what I mean? That's played at that aptitude to where it's like, yeah, you're going to have everything figured out. You're going to turn on a dial and ready to go. And I hope it's so encouraging for all of you guys to hear that, he has fucked up. But that you learn from it and that no matter where you're at, that's part of the process. One thing I want you to talk about though is what do you do when you do fuck up and you realize you've messed up? Like what's your course of action? How do you fix it with your clients or the business? What do you do at that point?
It's really funny that you say that. What a masculine question that is, right? Like, and by the way, this is part of my answer is that I'm a pretty masculine entity, right? Like things are fairly black and white with me, as you know, at this point. And so I've had to learn that some situations aren't for me to fix. Masculine people want to fix everything. And so this is a perpetual thing that I learn. It's like that person doesn't actually want me to fix their problem. They just want me to sit and listen and then say, see you later. And so for me, that's been a huge, huge learning. If I do make a mistake that requires fixing though, be it, let's just, whether it be pricing or, I make a mistake somewhere, one thing that I would say that I'm extremely good at is I take it on head on. I don't fuck around with it. Like if I've made a mistake, I fix it. As best as I can, right? Or I bring somebody in who can help me fix it as best as I can. That, though, is interesting because I think that that's part of my kind of emotional makeup where I hate things that are left undone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like not knowing something is way worse than whatever the consequences end up being. You know, so it's like, I remember, gosh, this is maybe 12 weeks ago. I went past one of those like speed vans or whatever, you know, I was driving past it and I thought that I was speeding. And for like 6 weeks, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I wonder if I'm going to get a ticket. So it's like, that's how my brain functions. Literally yesterday, I drove past a spot. I'm like, oh, I think it's been long enough. Like maybe I'm, you know, and so I say that because it's very real for me, right? Like if there's a challenging, emotional, human problem that I'm a part of or that I've created, it's very much in my nature that I need to get on that problem and get it fixed. And I think for coaches, if you leave problems on the table, they just get worse. And so I think that maybe my best advice, take on the problem head on. And it might be super uncomfortable. It might require you to be in really tough conversations. I'm not saying handle it as fast as you can. I'm just saying get on it so that you can start to figure out how you're going to have to handle it. And those human problems are very hard to put in a playbook, right? Like you can put some process around how you escalate issues, but when you have to sit across the table from somebody and either fire somebody or, by the way, fire a client or whatever because they aren't following protocol, it's like, that's shitty. You know what I mean? And so you just have to take it on and you have to make the decision that's going to be the best for the collective of the business for the long term. And a lot of coaches make decisions in emotionally mistake-driven scenarios, and they make short-term decisions without fixing the problem, and that problem then spirals to something that they can't fix. Yeah. And here's an example of what coaches would resonate with, right? If you're in a gym, you have that one client that is causing problems and you don't get them out of the gym, and then all of a sudden they do something, you're like, holy fuck, how did I not get this person out of here 6 months ago? I wonder how much damage this has done to my client base. Or you have a coach that's, what's more aggressive than undermining? Basically trying to screw you under the table and you don't address it. Yeah. Now, again, you might have caused the problem that's making this coach want to screw you. However, if you don't address it head on, it's your problem. You know, it's your fault. So you got to deal with it.
You mentioned when you guys opened up the gyms in the beginning, you guys did the punch card thing, and you guys played with the 2 and the 3 days, and then the unlimited. Tell me what did that transition? Let's say a coach is doing the punch card style system now, and they want to transition into a subscription-based system. How would you guide them through that process, and where would you have them start first? Let's say they already have a great punch card business, and they just want to I can handle more people or whatever that might look like.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you've got a gym that's full and you're making great money, let's call it per hour of your service, you don't have to switch. You know what I mean? Like, let's go back to the beginning of the conversation. There's a lot of different ways to skin this cat. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, though, what I would have them do first is investigate those clients. And I mean the data of those clients, right? So it's like, what am I making per client per month? If they buy from you every single month, okay, cool. That's what they're paying you per month. If they buy a punch card every 4 months, you got to divide the punch card price by 4, right? So it's like what gym owners aren't generally paying attention to is what's the per month price that they're paying, because that's going to be what's going to give you the best lifetime value forecast off of that client. So like, you and I have talked about this, right? Let's go to Barry's boot camp. What's their play? Buy 1 session at a time for $34 goddamn dollars an hour, you know, for a class, right? And I sit here, I'm like, my God, that seems expensive for a class. However, people are paying it. But what has Barry's done? They've gone into tier 1 markets, i.e. markets that they're, you know, let's call it millennials or whoever. People have plenty of money to pay $34 per class. And these are the types of people that probably do multiple other things on top of Barry's. So berries isn't the final health and wellness solution for these folks. It's an entertaining, good sweat class, and that's what they buy. So the service is, I don't want to say entertainment because people are clearly training, and those trainers at Barry's are good, right? But you can't tell me that you go to Barry's once a month and you're like, woo! Like, that's my health and wellness solution.
Right.
But let's run the math on that. Let's say that you go to 3 Barry's classes a week. Let's just call it $100. That's $400 a month for group training. Like, that PT guy who can't make $50 an hour is like, fuck. Let's talk about value for a second. Like, why does Barry's sell it by the class? Because the audience is willing to pay $34 an hour, or excuse me, yeah, $34 an hour.
Yep.
They've probably tested out a weekly price and a monthly price, and it did less well than $34 per class. So my first rule of thumb for like how you should make that change is to investigate your own system first so that you can design the best test to see if that works better. And then what I would say is, regardless of your level of success or not with your current payment system, or let's just call it pricing system,
yep,
you then have to test it out in a smart way. Like, I would never go all in on a test, right? Like, I wouldn't risk my whole business on a test. I might say if I get 10 clients to come in and sign up, I might offer 5 of them, A/B test 1, and I might offer 5 of them A/B test 2, and I might run that test for 3 to 6 months. And so it's like, what are the results of that? So it's like, I would never go in. What does Barry's or, other examples do? They take test gyms and they test those gyms to see how effectively a pricing structure works.
Okay.
So I would do that. I'd investigate the current system and see like what they're paying you per month and where you might have opportunities. I would then design a test to have, let's call it 25 to 50% of new clients offered. And I would see what the results of that are. And then I would decide based on the metrics, based on hard data, what I was going to do. So a big thing that we talk about at OPEX is strategy, execution, measurement, refinement. Like, you got to think about what your strategy is with the prerequisite data to support the initial strategy. Then you got to execute the test. Then you got to measure the test. And then you got to see what the actual measurement means so that you can then re-strategize for the next run.
So when we start looking at, we've looked at our story, we've looked at identifying our services, really taking a look at what the market is doing, making sure that we can validate our prices and we're testing them. And then that's really giving us a good assessment around, okay, we know what we're offering, we know what the market wants, we know where we stand in the market based on what we're offering. And so we're kind of getting ready to start choosing our price and ready to make that jump. But when it comes to it, at the end of the day, if a coach, and you hit on this earlier, if they're not confident in the number they're selling, they're never going to sell that price. How do you get coaches to take the wallet out of, their wallet out of the client's pants, right? Like, that coach is looking at that client where they're like, I can't afford $400 a month. So how can I even ask that client for it? I see that all the time. What do you say to coaches that are just having a hard time even bringing up the money conversation?
I would look internally a little bit, so similarly to some of the stuff that I've personally struggled with and had to learn over the years. I think coaches need to learn why they worry about the money conversation. So what I've seen from a lot of coaches is that it goes back to they don't believe in their service offering and the value of their service offering, so they don't want to have the money conversation. So let's say I go into a conversation to sell somebody and they say, how much is this on a monthly basis? I might say, it's only $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's like, just the words that I said, it's only $3,000 a month, are completely different than if somebody's like, well, it's like, I try to do a really good job. It's like, you've seen these coaches do this where it's immediately apparent that they're not confident in their service. Mm-hmm. And so that, we smell that. We're human beings. We smell when somebody is ready to be killed. And so I think what the coaches need to do to solidify their mindset is kind of do some act as if scenarios, right? You got to practice and play this stuff. It goes back to testing conversations. Like if I don't test my ability level to sell, I will fail when I try to make a sale to an important client. So I'm a big believer in designing, let's just say, the guts of a sales script, not exact, because what's worse than being sold on a direct script. Yep. But design the guts of the script so that you can talk about them first and ask them great questions, and then base your value conversation on how important this thing, i.e. the outcome, is for the client. If they tell you that, let me use an extreme example to bring the point home. If somebody's parents just both got diagnosed with cancer because they were overweight, and this now child, we'll call them an adult, right? But like this adult comes to me and they're like, I don't want to get cancer, and I believe that I'm eating poorly and I'm not exercising enough, and so I'm going to get cancer. Can you imagine the value that they will feel if they have better health markers based on the health and fitness program that you give them? Yeah. There is literally no dollar amount for what they can pay. Now, somebody's going to say, well, how much money do they have? Of course, it depends how much money they actually have to spend on it. But all things being equal, if you understand that this problem that they have is highly important to them, the value exponentially rises. And so you have to practice getting to that question, right? So it's like if you go into a sales consultation and you immediately start with, hey, welcome to the gym. Here's what we do here. I'm like, blah. Yep. I don't care. But why I don't care is the principle is that I'm the hero. Like, I want to talk about myself. Yep. Right? And so we need to recognize that as coaches. And so the first thing that I like to do in a sales consult is to ask questions. And then when I find that topic that we're really jiving on, that's where I stay for a little bit, because I've immediately built rapport, right? And you can weave in some status pieces to that, right? It's like, oh yeah, the 200 other clients that I've worked with have gotten amazing results. It's like, I just said that so subtly, but all the other person's like, oh, 200 other clients that are winning. It's like, ooh, that sounds good. Like, I want to be a part of that. But I didn't say it in like a needy, whiny way, right? I said it in a way that's like, this is who I am. It's that level of certainty that people want. And generally speaking, a coach-client relationship, the coach is generally masculine, right? I don't mean male, I mean masculine, because they're guiding people to fitness progress. It's like, you have to help them fix the shit that's going on in their lives that's costing them better fitness results. And so I want to start to understand how I can guide that person. And the only way to do it is through those questions. So if you want to get better at this, you have to design how you're going to ask those questions. You have to design the environment that you usually want to sell in. If you're in a gym, you can sell in a consult room. If you're online, I generally like to take it into a video consult, like the Zoom room, right? Like, I want to go face to face because I can understand more about you based on how you respond and react to certain things that I say. And I'm not gonna hammer you with those things. I'm just gonna notice them. You know what I mean? Just like take a mental note. It's like, ooh, when I asked about what was so important to them about losing 25 pounds, they were squeamish. It's like, ooh, okay, I'm not going to push on that too much. There's probably something there, but I definitely want to make sure that I come back and show them how much I care about getting them to that outcome. And it's like, I wish I could tell you that there is a 1 + 1 = 2 strategy to selling, but I don't think that there is in consultative selling. I think unless you have a product that is like completely globally understood and massively marketed, like Coca-Cola, right? I got $1 product. It's like, I don't need to do much to sell that, But what if I wanted to sell $2,000 worth of Coca-Cola to somebody? It's like, ooh, that's probably going to require a conversation,
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and it's no different to me, right? Like you have to start to understand why they would even want $2,000 to Coca-Cola in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to it. And I'm so glad that we talked about this breadth of topics, more than just how to set your prices, because it's so much more than just like, okay, I'm going to train you. We're going to give you X amount of sessions for X amount of dollars per month. And then we're on our way. And it's that mindset that so many coaches fall into this black hole that inevitably ends up in burnout and leaving the industry, that they're not set up for success out of the beginning. And I love that we've been able to go down this rabbit hole of what it takes to set your prices up first and foremost. Notice that's where he went immediately being probed with this question, was like, what are the guts of it? Let's figure this out. Let's deconstruct this first, because I can't just give arbitrary numbers and say, well, choose your prices based off this. And there's a whole game to it, and that's what builds a sustainable business.
Yeah, well, let me maybe start to wind this thing down by reality, right? Let's take online coaching right now. And anybody who's watching this has probably seen the price points for online coaches go from anywhere from like $50 a month to $795 a month for the same service. Right? You get a program, maybe you get a conversation and a nutrition template. And I know I'm bastardizing it, but just bear with me. So it's like, well, where should I price? It's like, all of those people are pricing at very, very different places. And so what are the reasons why they, and by the way, you don't always know how good their business is just based on what they're charging. So don't fall into that trap. But if you believe that they're having success at a higher or lower price point, you have to deconstruct why you believe that is. So it's like, I know for a fact that to deliver a very, very good individual design program that I'm paying close attention to, that is the right program for the client, plus giving them a 30-minute video consultation, plus working with them on nutrition and lifestyle, I cannot charge $50 an hour. I can't, because let's go back to the math, right? We were talking about the math at one point. And the math says that I'm going to spend about 90 to 120 minutes with my client each month. That's programming, that's answering questions through TrueCoach, that's doing a consultation, blah, 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 blah. And so I need 2 hours. Well, ask yourself, if I don't spend any other time with that client, that's $25 an hour. And if you're saying, it's like, oh, that's not too bad. It's like, well, what about the other stuff that you have to do to make your business go? You know what I mean? What about the marketing you're going to have to do? So the moment you make this into a business, you have to have enough clients paying you enough money to make a living at it. And I would also ask you to talk or to think about trade-offs and opportunity costs, right? It's like, let's say that you can coach 10 clients, you know, at that $25 an hour mark. It's like, okay, that's $250, what is that? Oh yeah, per month, right? $250 per month. It's like, how's that going to treat you? You know, it's like, is that going to be enough per month? Let's run the math a little bit more. How many clients would you need to make $5,000 a month? Way too many.
Yeah.
Way too many. You know, so you got to have 100 clients doing that service to make $5,000 a month. That is burnout.
60 grand, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. 60, right?
Yep, 60.
Yeah. So that's the burnout moment. And so you got to say, well, what am I willing to actually do this service for? And then you have to say, if you're a business owner and you have other coaches working for you, not only do you have to make money with the coach has to make money, but the business has to make money. So you can't physically pay your coach 100% of that $50 an hour. And I can tell you that when you build a business, there are expenses. Right? So it's like you have to look at the best way to answer your question is you have to look at the cost structure of your business to understand what your business requires and what you have to make in order to make enough money to do the service. That to me comes before you even decide to get into business. So let's say, for example, that you would need to charge, let's just theoretically, I would have to charge $2,000 a month per client just for a program, no consult, whatever. And I know that this is not realistic, but if I had to charge that much money, I can't play the game. Maybe you could find 5 celebrities if you spent all of your time and energy doing that to make $10,000 a month. But that's a really, really dangerous game to play, because if you lose 2 of those celebrities, it's tough to replace them.
Totally.
You know, so I think that you have to define your cost structure to define if you can play the game. And if you can play the game, then you go to the market to understand what the price is, generally speaking, going to cost, and how you fare with your brand as well as your service offering, etc., on where you should price within the range, and then you try it.
That's awesome, man. That's breaks it down, right? Like that's 100% like what you guys need to be doing right now from this call. Like go in, deep dive into your business. Where is it at? Where do you want it to go? And some of you who are already in business, hopefully this gives you a good spot of like, oh crap, I'm that guy that's charging $25 an hour essentially. Or you're like, oh, I'm just getting going. Man, this conversation ideally can save you lots of money and a lot of headaches of beating your head against a wall, which Jim has got, some calluses right here from. He's very well worn into being able to do well. But man, it's our goal, Jim and I have talked about this, to where we don't want to see so many coaches falling out of this industry because of burnout. When we can give them a little bit of advice in the very beginning or wherever they're at in their journey and help them, because it's that coach that's so passionate, that's willing to have a second job to keep training. Man, they're the person I want coaching, because they care so much. Yep. They're waiting tables at night just to be a coach. And it's like, how can we help that person be successful? And this advice, man, has been absolutely gold. And, every time I get to talk with you, I learn something new, and consistently amazed by how much you have to share. And how similar that we think, even though we come from such different backgrounds. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and share your wisdom and share the OPEX model and just give us a really good idea about how we can all get better today right away.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I really appreciate it, man. I always have a good time talking to you and talking to the other TrueCoach squad. It's good to have Rachel part of this thing now, so it's I think you guys will have a lot of fun doing it too. So thanks, and I'd love to come back if you ever want me to come back too.
Always, anytime you want. Thank you so much, and then we'll be in touch about it.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye, guys.